Hi, this is Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for Different Thinking for Different Times. It's a weekly podcast about stretching our thinking from what I call the small minded acorn brain, reactive brain, limited, finite brain, into the limitless, infinite thinking, and how to do that. And so this week, I'm going to talk about all the evidence we have of small minded thinking, and we don't have to look far. So it's a great time to learn how to observe your small minded thinking or any small minded thinking. And I have to tell you, I'm not immune from it. It's a journey, not a destination. But first, it begins with developing a level of thinking above your thinking. As Dr. Rao said in his book, Are You Ready to Succeed? One can become the witness to their thinking, and that we can develop the observer level of thinking, which means we don't believe the automatic thought, which leads to the automatic response. And typically, they're not good because oftentimes we're reacting to something from our past, or we're reacting to someone who makes us angry, or some situation that makes us angry. And there's a combination of reasons for that automatic thought. And the reasons vary from not being in the moment and not accepting it. It's called rejecting the moment or fighting life, as Eckhart Tolle says. When you fight life, life fights you. And also, default pattern, meaning that if we react to certain situations and certain people the same way, we're resisting the lesson and the mirror effect that they're showing us. So, in people that bug us, they are often bothering us because we have yet to embrace the fact that we have their same qualities. So we want to be right and make them wrong, and we don't learn the lesson that, in fact, their gift to us is showing us what Debbie Ford said in her book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, that people that bug us are showing us parts of our own personality that we have yet to embrace, meaning that we don't know what we don't know, right? And those aspects of us that we don't know that we don't know. And so it's easy to say, well, that person is a jerk, or that person is obnoxious or arrogant or angry or bitter, or whatever we would say. The gift is to just step back and say, okay, where have I been like this person? Where have I ever been like this person? And then rather than responding with anger, you would say, okay, at least in your mind, you'd have some empathy, and perhaps you'd say, I see you're upset. Is it with me? What could I do? How can I help? Instead of reacting angrily and escalating the situation, or never resolving it and having a story to tell others. See, most people have a story to tell others about where they were right, right? And that's the other place that small minded thinking is, every place that we want to tell others we were right and others were wrong, instead of negotiating or willing to be neither right nor wrong, just in the middle. Okay, I'll take a look at that. It's to come up with different responses other than what I call the acorn brain, that small minded thinking. And most of us believe our thinking. And what we don't know is that we're always seeing what we believe. So, for example, in this coronavirus time, people who are afraid and have lots of fear and believe they're thinking that there's lots to be afraid of, what happens is they get more to be afraid of, that what they focus on expands. But you have to prove that to yourself. And how to do that in these times is relax and not have fear. Instead, have faith. This is a time to be helping others get out of your head, get over all those ideas that there's not enough of anything. For example, I've gone to the store on a regular basis. I usually go once a week, one big shopping once a month, and then once a week thereafter to fill in things. And I didn't buy anything different than what I ordinarily purchase. And I was able to find everything that was on my list. I might have had to find different brands, or I might have had to go to a second store to get something like chicken and eggs. But guess what? I was able to walk to the second store, and they had plenty. They had plenty of everything. They had plenty of chicken, plenty of eggs. And those were the only two things at that time that I couldn't find in the supermarket. And I didn't panic. I just said, oh, well, I'll go somewhere else. because it was the current reality, right? Eckhart Tolle also likes to say some people think reality is nuts. And what he means is we fight the moment rather than saying, okay, no problem. I can fix this, or I can resolve it, or there's plenty somewhere else. And whatever we think we don't have enough of, it's fascinating how people find that there's not enough of it. And then to know that you have small minded thinking, or you're stuck in that small minded thinking, you might not have it all the time, but to know it is to tell the story to others about how you were right and this whole situation is wrong. I mean, after all, it's here now. So to begin to break through with that acorn brain, that limited, small minded thinking, is to look at all those places where you're a reaction, where you're judging, where you're telling a story, where you're afraid, where you have what I call the white knuckle grip on life. When we have the white knuckle grip on anything, it doesn't respond as well to us, right? If we're skiing and have a white knuckle grip, or if we're golfing and we grab the club so hard, it doesn't work as well. Or if we're driving and we have a white knuckle grip in the snow or in bad weather, we don't respond as well. We respond better if we're relaxed and feeling safe. And how to do that is when you want your body and your little acorn brain wants you to go into that white knuckle grip, just relax. Come back into your body, breathe a little bit, then ask, what's true about this? And what are other possibilities? What else is possible now? And if you're making others wrong so that you can be right, relax that as well, because that's part of the white knuckle grip, making others wrong, which means we have to be right. We don't always have to be right. It could be a negotiation. I mean, just look at our current state of politics. It's both sides wanting to be right, railing against the other because one wants to get into power over the other, and it's really turned into craziness. And you can see what happens. Nothing gets done. And so this podcast is about that, overcoming small-minded thinking. It's about that we live in a universe, we live in something we're not even sure what it is, but we are floating, suspended on a garden planet at the exact right spot, orbiting, not with strings, but orbiting, suspended around an exposed nuclear fusion plant. And on November 18th, 2002, I was in intensive care for 5 days at that point, and I flatlined at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2-ish, as witnesses have told me. And I was one with everything and nothing. It was just amazing, simply amazing. I can tell you we have nothing to fear. We go from this to that without a body, of course, but we have our consciousness, and you just immediately know you're one with everything and nothing. You're one with the infinite, the life force, whatever you call it. For me, it's God. And it didn't matter what I called it. It had no religion. It had no sex. It had no preferences. It had no nationalities. It had no nations. Nothing from our small-minded thinking was there. Nothing. And so that's the thing to remember, that what we live in is something we're not even sure about. But it is a miracle. Just remember that. It's a miracle. And we live in something infinite. And to mirror that is to break through anything that's small-minded and judgmental. And there was only mention on the other side of the good I had done in life. Somehow it's etched into the fabric of time, which makes sense to me. Think about how you feel when you do good. You feel good. And it's kind of a cliche to say what happens on earth stays on earth, but only the good I had done was mentioned. There was no mention of burning in hell, which is, again, small-minded thinking. And what we come from and what we go back to is way beyond small-minded thinking. It's way beyond anything our little acorn brain suggests. And that's our job, is to overcome that in life and become more like the infinite mercy, infinite grace, infinite acceptance, and infinite love. But that comes from experience, and it's a journey, not a destination, because certainly I have my moments. even after experiencing that, but I can remind myself to just be in the moment, because there was no past or no future. There was only the now. And surrendering into the now was really a challenge for me up until that day, which I was a month over 50 years old. I had spent most of my time in the past or in the future. I can tell you the divine is in the now, that there was only the now in the infinite, in universe, in heaven, when I was one with the life force. And so in the now is the divine, whatever we call it, whether we call it God or Abraham or Mohammed or the Christ, or it doesn't matter. It had no religion. It was just one. And so we have all these paths to God or the divine, and that's fine. That's fine. But that's the human way. The infinite way is one way. Infinite mercy, infinite grace, infinite everything that you can think of, way beyond whatever little acorn brain thought that your acorn brain wants to enroll you in is not from where we go. It's not from the life force. It's not from the divine. And that's our job. So I can encourage you all to overcome it. Look for that place where you want to react and look for the gift in it, because the divine is never absent from us. Never. Never. If that was the case, then truly this existence would not exist, and we wouldn't even know it, because we would instantly be one with that made us, that miracle that made us, that life force. And so if you have any questions, you can email me, steve@stevelentini.com, steve@stevelentini.com. You can certainly challenge me, or if you'd like to appear and share your stories about being on the other side, or whatever you'd like to do where you overcame small-minded thinking, reach out to me, and I'm glad to host you on the podcast. Thank you. Have a great week.